Hey there, I'm Alex Kidman, and this is the Anko Wireless Controller. Let's get into the review. So about a year ago, I reviewed the Anko RGB Wireless Controller, a super cheap, $45 Australian, RGB backlit wireless controller. I mean, the name kind of says what it is. Anko, of course, is Kmart Australia's in-house brand, so you can get Anko t-shirts and Anko sync plugs and Anko underwear, if you will, and, of course, Anko gaming controllers. But, of course, there was another. This one, the Anko Wireless Controller, an even cheaper model. So where the RGB controller will run you $45, this little puppy will only run you $25. But is it worth it? Well, the only way to find out was, of course, to buy one and to put it through its paces. Before I start, I should point out all this mention of Kmart for my international audiences, and especially the US ones going, Kmart? They don't exist anymore. They do here in Australia. There's a company that owns the rights to Kmart, and for that matter, Target. You can also get lots of Anko branded gear at Target, and the box that I got for this suggests it probably is for sale in Target as well. Mine came from a Kmart, but that's why I'm mentioning Kmart. But I digress. Let's talk about the design. The design, of course, is very, very similar to the previously reviewed RGB controller. That's no shock at all. I can't say for sure that they're from the exact same factory. They're certainly from the same base core design, and it would not shock me in the least if this exact controller was also sold under other brand names in other countries, although weirdly in my research I discovered I could pay way more for exactly one of these branded as it is from Fiji if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that. The biggest impression that the Anko wireless controller can give you when you pick it up is how light it is. This is incredibly light, and it does not feel particularly robust. That is important if you're looking to buy it, for example, for young kids, because they're really very kind to controllers, and I do feel like this one's not going to last the distance if it's thumped around a whole bunch. It weighs in at about 183 grams, and that's 20 to 30 grams lighter than the RGB model was, and that wasn't exactly heavy either. I've never really felt so much like I wanted to open this thing up and add some weights to it, because it just doesn't feel that robust in the hand. It's not unpleasant or anything, but it's really, really featherweight. Maybe that's great for you. I didn't like it so much. What I did like about it is that it is not RGB backlit. I always thought that was a slightly useless function of the RGB controller. One thing you don't get with the Anko wireless controller that you do get with the RGB model, though, is a clip for connecting up your mobile phone so that you can use that as a mobile gaming platform. There's not even the space on the controller itself. If that's important to you, all you get is a simple USB cable and a pamphlet that shows you how to pair the device up in the box. That's it. But then, hey, it's $25. One other thing I feel like I have to point out, and this is just an oddity, kind of amused me, about the Anko wireless controller is it's a wireless controller. So why on earth on the packaging did Kmart decide, hey, let's have a cable coming out the back of this thing? I mean, yes, you can use it wired, but that's just really, really strange marketing. What about performance? Well, look, the Anko wireless controller is primarily sold by Kmart as a Switch controller. The button layout is Switch. If you look it up on their website, they talk about it being a Switch controller. That's predominantly actually how I have tested it, but it will pair with a whole bunch of other platforms with that kind of typical home button plus another button variety pairing. And this always comes up as a question when I do these reviews. How do I pair to this, or how do I pair to that? So I'm going to throw all of the controls up on screen now so that people can reference them as they need for the various platforms it connects to. Now, I haven't tested it with absolutely everything. It should work. It's Bluetooth. I mean, you can always try a different connection methodology. If one doesn't work for you, maybe the other one will. So, for example, presumably it connects with Linux. I haven't really tested that. Likewise, with a smart TV that'll accept a Bluetooth controller, should work, but I can't say that it does. I have connected it up to a PC and to a Switch and to a Mac, basically to see that, yes, it will work. It will also work as a wired PS3 controller, if that's what you need. One caveat here, though, if you are looking at this as a Switch replacement controller, is that there's no onboard NFC. Now, that's super common for this kind of controller. I can't entirely fault it for that, but if you do love your Amiibo, they're not going to work with this thing. So what about actual controller response? Well, honestly, it's on par with the RGB controller. It's not great. Like I said, the light feel of this controller rather bugged me while I was playing with it, and I didn't love the rear triggers especially. They do feel a bit on the loose side, but again, $25, it's kind of par for the course. It's not exactly a bargain, but it's far from the worst controller I've ever used either. On the battery front, this is one of the areas where Anko has shaved some money off. They've made it a cheaper controller because the RGB model comes with an 800 mAh battery. But this thing only comes with a 450 mAh battery. Now, true, you're not spending power on all that fancy RGB lighting if you have it enabled, but that still has an impact on battery life. And it's interesting to note that while Anko does state an estimated battery life for the RGB controller, they make no claims about this little puppy. It's just see how long it lasts. And for me, that's been about 2 to 3 hours, maybe. Your gaming experience may vary. This is not a long-term endurance controller. Still pretty easy to charge. I will note that all of the connection lights flash all of the time while it's charging. In fact, you know that it's fully charged when they go off, but that can be super distracting. So, maybe charge it in a cupboard or something if that's going to bother you. So should you buy the Anko wireless controller? Well, look, this is a budget controller for a budget purpose. I can't see too many people being happy with it as their primary controller all of the time. It's not awful, but it's not great. It really does feel, and the RGB controller was much the same, as though it's the controller that you'll have as the spare, as the one for when you have visitors around and you're playing a casual game and people are not going to be too fussed about response or long battery life. For that kind of purpose, yeah, it's fine. It'll do the trick quite nicely and at a budget price. As a long-term super durable controller that you're going to use all the time, no, I really do think the thing's going to break or you're going to get frustrated with the battery life a little bit too quickly. So that's my take on the Anko wireless controller. This isn't a new device, and I'm sure a bunch of people have already bought them. So if you've got any thoughts or observations, hit me up in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.